Konami keep releasing absolute bangers, and this deck is no different. So in today's video, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the Goblin Rider cards, a archetype of level 3 monsters who special summon themselves by detaching XZ material from XZ monsters. And these cards are actually really good and really interesting. So in today's video, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about these cards, and then I'm going to show you 3 combos you can do with the deck. We'll start with Goblin Rider Doug the Assaulter. So this card says, if this card is in your hand, you can detach 1 XZ material from a monster on the field, and if you do, special summon this card. So all of the monsters have an effect similar to this. Where they summon from and when they can summon are all different. This one's probably your main starter because it can do it on your turn, and it does it from the hand, which is the most likely place you're going to be starting using your cards from. Something to note about this effect is that you can detach from both your monsters and your opponent's monsters. To my knowledge, this effect affects the XZ materials of a monster rather than the monster itself. So if you come up against an Expelliarmus Noir, you could use this effect to detach a level 1 cat from the Noir, and that monster becomes a Towers with 3 spins, to just the Towers, which is a lot easier to deal with. This could be a really good matchup for Pearly in Goblin Rider's favour, if that deck is still legal when this deck comes about. Let's talk about the rest of this card. So if this card is normal or special summons, you can add 1 Goblin Rider spell trap from your deck to your hands, and you're going to use each effect once per turn. There are 3 search targets at this point for this card, and we'll talk about all of them. But yeah, this is a really good card. One of the best starters. Incredible card. The next card is Goblin Rider Meander the Cold-Blooded. This card has the effect that if this card is normal or special summons, you can special summon 1 Goblin monster from your hand, except for another copy of yourself. And if this card is in your graveyard, you can detach 1 XZ material from a monster on the field, and if you do, special summon this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. It's never going to get banished, because you're just going to use it for another XZ material, and it's going to go straight back to the graveyard for your next turn. So this card's really good. It reminds me of Town Knight Vega. Yeah, it's really good. The next card is Goblin Rider Boon the Max Speed. This is a level 3 Wind Warrior with 1300 attack, and during the main phase, if this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can quick effect. You cannot special summon Goblin Rider Boon Max Speed until the end of the next turn. Also detach 1 XZ material from a monster on the field, and if you do, special summon this card. So you can only use this effect every other turn. So if you do it in your first turn, you can't do it in your opponent's, and if you do it in your opponent's, you can't do it in your next turn. Really interesting that they've put this restriction on the cards, but I still think it's really good since it summons in your opponent's turn. And in your turn, it can just be a free summon. So, best of both worlds, except you can't use it every turn, basically. The next card is Goblin Rider Clutter the Noisy. And this card says, if this card is normal or special summons, you can target 1 Goblin monster in your graveyard, except another copy of itself, special summon it. So this is your Satellite Altair of the archetype, I guess. So this is Dedeb, this is Vega, and this is Altair. It's basically just rank 3, whatever that deck's called, Stellar Knight. The second effect of this card is during your opponent's main phase, if this card is in your graveyard, quick effect, you can detach 1 XZ material from a monster on the field, and if you do, special summon this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. Again, you'll be using it for XZ material, so this card's just going to stay in your graveyard indefinitely. We'll talk about the spells now. We've got Grand Arrival of the Goblin Riders. This is a spell card that says add 1 Goblin monster from your deck to your hand. Then you can detach 1 XZ material from a monster in the field, and if you do, special summon 1 level 4 or lower Goblin monster from your hand. Probably a good time to mention here, I'm only playing the Goblin Riders in this deck because I have heard that the kanji for Goblin on Goblin Riders might be different than the goblins that came before them. I haven't had that confirmed, but just so this video isn't instantly outdated, I've avoided using any other goblin cards, so you won't be seeing Goblin Attack Force in this video. But if the kanji is correct, then technically this can special summon any level 4 or lower goblin monster, so I guess you can summon Goblinberg to special summon another one, but I don't know why you'd want to play a level 4. The next effect on this card is you can banish this card from your graveyard, detach 1 XZ material from a monster on the field, then you can add 1 Goblin monster from your graveyard to your hand, and you only use each effect of this card once per turn. Second effect is also really good. It allows you to get monsters back in hand to use your Cold-Blooded to special summon, and this is just an A tier card all around, and it is searchable off Doug since it is a spell. The next spell is Grand Gathering of the Goblin Riders. This is a continuous spell. Goblin monsters you control gain 300 attack for each Goblin monster you control. This is going to make your goblins really, really big and make it really easy to go for game. During your Bane phase, you can normal summon one goblin monster in addition to your normal summoner set. You only gain this effect once per turn. And the next effect is you can target 2 goblin monsters you control that have a level. To activate one of these effects, either the level of one of them becomes the level of the other. So if you have a level 4 on board, you can target one of the level 3s. It becomes a level 4 and you can go into rank 4s. Not doing it in this list. The second effect, which is more important, is their levels become the total original levels. So target 2 level 3s, they both become level 6. Which means you can go into the archetypal rank 6, which we'll talk about in a little bit. This is a really good card. Makes you guys big. 2 normal summons, and modulates levels so you can go into different sorts of XE monsters. The next card I want to talk about is Goblin Rider Stampede. This is a trap card, and it says during the main phase you can immediately after this effect resolves, XE summon using only goblin monsters you control as material. Obviously good, it's going to allow you to go into XE monsters on your opponent's turn, which is obviously important because max speed and clutter can both summon your opponent's turn. So the idea is you go, clutter effect, detach from an XE material, summon clutter effect, or special summon back the Dug effect, search. Then we'll activate the trap and we'll overlay these guys into a rank 3 for extra forms of interruption. It has a second effect where if you control a Goblin XZ monster, you can target one effect monster in the field, detach one XZ material from a monster on the field, and if you do, negate that target's effects until the end of the turn. But you're going to use one effect of Goblin Rider Stampede once per turn, and only once that turn. So the second effect's also good. It's just imperm. This is a continuous trap, so you're going to get a lot of mileage out of this card if you are able to get to it. So you'll probably be using each effect throughout the turns you're playing the card. If that makes sense. That's all of the main deck Goblin cards. We do have 2 in the extra deck, so we're just going to start with Goblin Rider Big Head Gabunga. This is a generic rank 3. It needs 2 level 3 monsters, and it says if this card is XZ summoned, you can add 1 goblin monster from your deck to your hand. Really good, searches the entire archetype. If an XZ material is detached from a monster on the field, you can target one other face-up monster on the field, attach it to this card as material. This is really good for attaching your own cards to be able to keep XZ materials on your monsters to continue summoning, but it's also interruption if you are able to detach a material on your opponent's turn. Well, then you can just target one of their cards and attach it to this, and it's basically like a really weird Trident or a Deus Ex Machina, I guess, because it just attaches to it. Really good effect. During each end phase, you can attach 1 goblin monster from your deck to this card as material. This is also a really good effect. This allows you to get your max speed and your clutter into rotation if they're not already in rotation. And when you detach from the Gabunga to activate another effect, these guys hit the graveyard. You could use these as special summon, and then you get to resolve the trap cards to XZ summon it again, which is really cool. Really nice that this gets a search and gets another basically search in the end phase. And yeah, exceptional card. It's during each end phase as well, so if this card survives your opponent's turn, you're getting another one, which is incredible. Where else to talk about? So we've got to talk about the rank 6. This is Goblin's Crazy Beast. It is a generic rank 6, which requires 2+ level 6 monsters. Once per turn, quick effect, you can target 1 spell trap on the field, detach 2 XZ materials from monsters on the field, and if you do, attach that card to this card as material. Exceptional effect. There was no real way of interacting with spell traps before this card, and this is a really good one. It's going to be really good against Labyrinth and decks like that, which are going to be setting cards, and also good against like field spells and continuous spells because you could attach them before they fully resolve, which means you basically negate them, which is really cool. The second effect is if a monster you control would be destroyed by card effect, you can detach 1 material from this card instead. Protection from all your cards is really, really good, and it attaches materials. This also triggers the Gabunga to then attach a card, which is awesome. I believe that's a third effect it does. If this card is in your graveyard, you can special summon it, and then you can attach 1 goblin monster from your graveyard to it as material, but you can only use this effect once per duel. So yeah, if they manage to out this, special summon it back, attach a material, and look at that, we've got a Zeus play immediately. Go to battle phase, 27 in. 27 in? Is he bigger? No, he's not bigger. 27 in, make a Zeus, clear the board, and then continue with the rest of your plays, which is really cool. So that is all of the new Goblin Rider cards. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk about the rest of the deck. So I'm playing Tour Guide and Fiendish Rhino Warrior. So I don't think I mentioned the types of these monsters. So Doug is a warrior, Coldblood's a fiend, and Max Speed's a warrior, and this one's a beast warrior. So they're all different types. But the fact that Coldblood is a fiend means you can use TGU and Rhino Warrior quite efficiently. You can go Tour Guide and the Rhino Warrior into your generic rank 3 as the spell, detach the Rhino Warrior, and you get to send the Coldblooded, which gets another Goblin Rider in rotation where you normally wouldn't have one, and Goblin Rider can summon itself from graveyard, so it's absolutely fine being there. I'm playing 3 copies of Kagemucha Knight. I can never pronounce this card's name correctly. I'm playing this one because it allows you to chain block your important effects, like normal summon Tour Guide, Channel 1 Tour Guide, Channel 2 Kagemucha Knight, or normal summon Doug, Channel 1 Doug, Channel 2 Kagemucha Knight, and etc. etc. So this one's really good. It's a free level 3 extender. It can be played with cards like Ash and Bell to do the full line, which is interesting. And yeah, it's just probably the best level 3 extender, but it's the only one I'm really playing. We're playing 1 Terratop and 1 Takatomborg. You might as well play them. Terratop is the full line all on its own, the same as Tour Guide is. And Takatomborg has another wins target in max speed. So even if you draw this card, if you can get a max speed of rotation, you can go, special max speed, special Takatomborg, and you got a rank 3 play right there. I am playing the Ghost Trick engine. So we're playing 1 copy of Ghost Trick Shot and 1 Alucard and 2 Angel of Mischief. This is a lot of cards to be playing in the extra deck to make Utopic Future and Utopic Draco Future. However, there is no in archetype negate, so being able to access one is really good. So I'm playing this engine. Whether I'll continue playing this engine after more testing, I'm not entirely sure, but right now I like it, and honestly, you do have room in the extra deck to have these sort of tech choices, so yeah, I'm playing that. What else are we playing? We're playing like 9 hand traps, 2 of them are level 3s for the Kagemucha Knight, Rota because we've got Warriors, and that's pretty much it. We'll talk about the extra deck. So we've talked about Gabunga and Crazy Beast. I'm playing the full Armed Fortress line. I'll put these in order. So XYZ Armor Torpedo basically says detach with 2 materials and draw a card, and if it's equipped to a monster, if the equipped monster battles, your opponent can't activate effects, and if the equipped monster would be destroyed, you can't be targeted by effects, sorry. So basically, yeah, you add some of this, detach 2, and then you immediately rank it up into Armor Fortress, which has the effect that you can detach up to 2 materials, and then you can add a, what are they called? Armored XZ card. So the one we're playing in this one is Full Armored XZ, which has the effect that if an XZ monster is on the field, immediately after this effect resolves, you can XZ summon 1 XZ monster, which is really good, obviously, because we have our Clutter and our Max Speed, which can special summon themselves back, and you can activate this to be able to XZ summon your opponent's turn, the same way that Goblin Rider Stampede does, except this card is accessible through the extra deck, whereas this is only accessible through the main deck, and Doug usually needs to search for a copy of a rival. So playing this allows you to still do what you want to do without having to give up on a search, which is quite strong. Also has a second effect that you can banish it to target an XZ monster in your graveyard and equip it to another XZ monster on the field. This is important because the rank 7 has an effect which you slap on top of the rank 5, where if this card, where is it? Once per turn, if an equipped card becomes equipped to a monster you control, you can attach 1 monster your opponent controls to this card as material. So this is a non-targeting attach, which you can resolve just by banishing the trap you've already used, targeting your rank 3, attaching it to your rank 7, attaching a card your opponent controls, and now your rank 7 can't be targeted, which is really good. Other cards in the extra deck, obviously playing the Draco Future stuff for the Ghost Trick line, but you could also summon this by using like the Torpedo and the Gabunga. It's possible. We're playing Downers since we're playing a rank 3 deck. 2 Zeus. I think 2 Zeus is probably correct to play. 1 Cicada King. It's probably the best rank 3 monster, which is just a generic negate. You could play a Shura King, but that requires 3 materials. This only requires 2, so we're playing this one. And we're playing this engine. Something funny to note about Full Armored XZ before we get into the combos. This card says, immediately after this effect resolves, XZ summon 1 XZ monster. You can actually use this in your opponent's turn to go into a Zeus. If your opponent attacks one of your XZ monsters and like doesn't clear all your XZs, you can activate Full Armored XZ and just slap a Zeus on top of one of your XZs, which is really funny. You can do the same thing with Doomsday Star. You probably would want to play this card in your deck, but I didn't have space for it because I'm playing the Ghost Trick engine, but you can do the same thing with this and lock out all the 3,000 attack monsters, which is quite cool. I've also got like a Rebarian Shark and a Fortune Tune in here. These would probably be the cards that go in for the Ghost Trick engine if I wasn't playing it, and if you don't want to play it. This obviously makes Zeus. This is the anti-Zeus cards, and this can special summon back your Cicada King once it's cleared to have a better grind game, if that makes sense. I don't know. I've talked about the deck for long enough. Let's get into some combos. So we're going to start with this one, which is just a copy of Tour Guide. So we're going to normal summon Tour Guide, and we're going to use the effect to special summon a Rhino Warrior from the deck. We're then going to overlay for a copy of Gabunga. Gabunga is going to trigger its effect here to add a Goblin monster from deck to hand. So we're going to add Doug. Doug is then going to detach the Rhino Warrior to special summon itself, and we're going to go Chain Link 1 Doug, Chain Link 2 Rhino Warrior. Rhino Warrior sends the Cold-Blooded, and Doug adds Arrival. From here, we're going to activate Arrival, and we're going to add Clutter, and then we're going to attach this TGU to special summon this Clutter, to special summon back this copy of Cold-Blooded in our graveyard. From here, we're going to overlay our 2 monsters for an Alucard, and then into an Angel of Mischief, and then detaching the Cold-Blooded and not the Alucard to search for a copy of Shot. We do this so we can activate the effect of Cold-Blooded to detach the Alucard. You could do it in the other way, but they run into different hand traps in really weird ways, and I think this one's probably the better way, because this way loses DD Crow, whereas the other way loses Imperm. We're then going to use the effect of Cold-Blooded to detach the Alucard to special summon itself back, and use the Alucard. I'd use the Shot to special summon back the Alucard, and then slap on top of the Alucard a copy of Mischief. From here, we can detach both the materials, then overlay for a copy of Utopic Future. This is going to trigger our Alucard to add back our copy of Ghost Trick Shot, which is going to get us another body for our next turn, and then we can slap a Utopic Draco Future on top of our monster. From here, we can overlay our 2 monsters for XYZ Armor Torpedo and use the effect attaching 2 materials to draw a card. From here, we can slap on top a XZ Armor Fortress and use the effect to detach and search for our copy of Full Armored XYZ. And from here, we can slap on top the rank 7. Now we're just going to set our trap and proceed to the end phase where we'll activate Gabunga's effect to attach a copy of Max Speed. In our opponent's turn, we're going to be able to use Utopic Draco Future to negate. We're going to use Gabunga to attach at some point. We could use the effect of Clutter in our graveyard, detaching the Max Speed to special summon itself. Use the Clutter to special summon back the Doug, which is of course going to trigger the Doug to get a search. And then we can use the trap card to overlay into a Cicada King, which is going to be another negate of a monster on the field. Not quite done here. God, we have the negate, but then we use Full Armored XZ, banishing, targeting our rank 7 to attach the torpedo. This is going to trigger our Lancer to target, well, not a non-targeting, attach a monster our opponent controls to it, and it also makes our guy untargetable by card effects, and he's just big. So he gains 300 attack for each material and each card equipped to it, so currently he's 3400 and he can't be targeted. And if we get to the end phase, we can then go on to attach a material with the Gabunga as well. So doing this combo, we had 2 negates, 2 attaches, an untargetable 3400 monster. We were able to search for follow-up, and we had follow-up from our last turn in Ghost Trick Shot. Yeah, and we obviously have Cold-Blooded and Max Speed in our graveyard for next turn as well, which is insane. Plenty of follow-up. They're dead on the next turn if they don't crack the board. The next combo is going to be what you can do with any 2 level 3 monsters. So in this case, I've decided to go for Ash and Kamagucha Knight because they're probably the least important. So normal summon, special summon, go into Gabunga, use the effect, and we're going to search for a Doug. From here, we're going to go Doug effect, detaching the Ash, special summoning the Doug, and then we're going to use the effect to add a copy of Arrivals. From here, we're going to use Arrivals to add the Cold-Blooded, and we're going to attach the Kakabucha Knight and special summon the Cold-Blooded. From here, we're going to overlay for a copy of Alucard and go through the line where we go through Mischief, Alucard, Ghost Trick Shot until we eventually end on a Utopic Draco Future. You can see in this line that we've left the Cold-Blooded underneath, showing that you can play around both hand traps, no matter what you want to play through. We did miss a step there where we used the Goblin Riders to detach a material to add back the Doug the Assaulter. This is so when we use the Cold-Blooded's effect to special summon itself, we can have a card in our hand to special summon. So we're going to overlay here for the Utopic Future, add back our Ghost Trick Shot with Alucard, and then slap a Draco Future on top of our monster. From here, we're going to detach from our Utopic Draco Future to summon the Cold-Blooded and use the Cold-Blooded's effect to special summon the Doug, and then overlay for a Torpedo, which allows us to draw a card, and then go into our rank 5 to search for our trap, which is going to allow us to XZ summon our opponent's turn. And then we can slap on top the rank 7 to have the actual interruption after we have used the trap's graveyard effect. This is the exact same board, but in this case we're going to attach the Clutter to the Gabunga rather than the Max Speed, because we didn't go through Clutter in this line. So this is the exact same board, does the exact same interruptions. You have slightly less follow-up because you've had to use the spell effect in graveyards, but considering we started with an Ash Blossom and a Kakamucha Knight, I don't think there's anything really to scoff at. This third combo is going to be a little bit different. This is going to be Goblin Rider Doug and Kakamucha Knight, and this line is going to be to show you can use the Ghost Trick line as a way of playing into Nib more efficiently. So we're going to start with our Dug and search for, well, Chain Link 1 Dug, Chain Link 2 Kagabuchanite. Forget to search off the Dug until right now. We grab the Arrival and we overlay into a Ghost Streak Alucard and then to a Mischief. So this is summon 4. You can definitely be Nibs during this combo because it summons way more than 5 times. But it means that you can continue on your plays afterwards because you'll have 5 other cards in hand. 4 other cards in hand. So we overlay for our Utopic Future, trigger the effect to get our shot back, and then go into Utopic Draco Future. From here, we're going to activate our Arrival, detaching the Mischief to add Dug, and then Dug to detaching a material. Not Dug. Why did I add Dug? Add Clutter, and then special summon the Clutter off of the spell. Clutter's effect's going to trigger special summoning the Dug back, and then we can overlay for a copy of Gabunga. From here, we can add back speed from our deck to our hands, and we can use back speed to detach a material to special summon itself. Then we can use the spell to detach another material to go into add back the Dug. We're doing this because the Explicitly Armored Fortress can only be used as a Z material if it has no materials, so we need to remove both of them after we use the effect to search for a trap. From here, we can go into our rank 7 and we set our card. This is a worse board because we don't have access to the Gabunga to get more follow-up and to get an attach. But this line plays into Nibiru significantly better because if they Nibiru you when you're doing your Draco Future setup, you have a bunch of other cards to keep playing. And you have like the spell, for example, which is going to get a search. And you can just go off from there. But this line still ends on a monster negate, an attach, another negate, and yeah, like it's still 3 points of interruption with a decent amount of follow-up because we added the Dug back, which can get the continuous spell next turn to keep going. And yeah, I quite like this. I quite like this deck in general, to be honest. It's nice that there's a rank 3 deck that's actually seems playable and that they've actually released some good rank 3 monsters because the rank 3 pool was quite weak before this, but yeah, this deck's really cool. I'm really looking forward for it coming out into the TCG, whatever that might be. If you enjoyed this video, maybe you want to go watch another one. You can find on the channel, we've recently released a Snake Eyes video with the most recent Infernoid support. That was a really fun video to make. If you want to see what the new Snake Eyes support can do for that deck, go check it out. And if you want to see future content, subscribe. We do a lot of this sort of stuff on the channel, releasing combo videos for decks that have only just been announced. If you enjoy that sort of stuff, stick around. And yeah, we'll see you in the next video.